السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. رمضان مبارك. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا مولانا رسول الله وآله وصحبه ومن والاه. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. وبعد إن شاء الله تعالى, today we're going to discuss the main lessons that we have in the second juz of the Quran. Today is the second night, the first day of Ramadan. I hope your day of fasting, first day of fasting was easy, inshallah Azza wa Jal, and you had your iftar and you prayed Salatul Maghrib. And now we're going to discuss the main lessons of the second juz. And as we said yesterday in the introduction, I would recommend that inshallah you have your pen and notebook, and just make this notebook only for Ramadan. And by the end of this 30 lectures, the end of this month, inshallah, you will be able to know all the lessons that Allah Azza wa Jalla has talked about in the whole Quran. Every single night, we will know the main lessons in every juz. So you can recite the juz during the day, or you can listen to it, or you can recite it in your Taraweeh prayer right after this lecture, for example. And then at the same time, you have the lessons with you. You can share them with your family, or you can share them with your friends, Muslims and non-Muslims. Now we have full grasp of the lessons of the whole book of Allah Azza wa Jal in 1 month, inshallah. I am the most excited, by the way, because I have to prepare myself, I have to read, and I have to reflect, and then I tell you the main reasons, and I have my own references, and I hope inshallah you are as excited to be able to understand the whole Quran in 1 month, inshallah Azza wa Jal. So today we're going to discuss our second juz in the Quran. And does anybody know the first ayah in the first juz of the Quran? Does anybody know what the first ayah is? First ayah in the second juz in the Quran. Does anybody know it? Okay, I will give you some time maybe to look it up. If you have any answer, you can type it. But before, until you find the answer, I would like to share with you the first story that Allah Azza wa Jalla is talking about in the first ayah in the second juz. What happened as Allah Azza wa Jalla was talking about the changing of the direction of prayer. Changing of the direction of prayer. There is a very beautiful narration that one time the Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, they were praying Salatul Asr in Jama'ah. Salatul Asr in Jama'ah. And they were facing Jerusalem. They were facing Jerusalem. Excellent. Dr. Salah, he said Qibla. Jazakumullahu khairan. I hope inshallah Azza wa Jal you're safe and you will be able to come back to Canada safe inshallah Azza wa Jal after this pandemic inshallah ta'ala. Dr. Salah started by saying it's Al-Qibla. That's true. So the Sahaba radullah alayhim, they were making sujood in ruku' in Salatul Asr, ruku' subhana rabbiyal azim, in Salatul Asr. And then a man came to them in a hadith narrated by Sayyiduna Abdullah ibn Umar. It's an authentic ahad hadith. And he said, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he has received some revelation. People, Allah is telling Rasulullah to face Al-Ka'bah al-Musharrafah, the sacred house in Mecca, and instead of facing Jerusalem in your prayers. What did the Sahaba radiallahu anhum do? They did not even wait until they finished their prayers. They did not even wait until they finished their prayers. Dr. Salah is in Canada. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I thought you're back home and you're stuck over there. Alhamdulillah, you're here. It's very good to have you here. May Allah Azza keep you always safe and healthy, you and your family and everybody else. Allahumma ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. So the Sahaba radwanullahi alayhim, they didn't wait until Salatul Asr is done. No, while they were praying in their sujood, they were facing Jerusalem, and all of them changed their direction to the sacred house in Mecca, to Al-Ka'bah al-Musharrafah, obeying the commandment of Allah Azza wa Jal. So they did not care about what they are doing. What they cared more about is the absolute submission to what Allah Azza wa Jal said. They did not care about what people are going to say. People are going to criticize us, and that's actually what happened. And Allah Azza wa Jal called people who criticized the believers when they obeyed the order of Allah Azza wa Jal in this matter, and people who care so much about the appearance more than the purification of the heart, Allah Azza wa Jal gave them a name. He gave them a name. He called them Sufaha. And the word Sufaha in Arabic language means foolish. Why did Allah Azza wa Jalla call them foolish? Because they criticized the believers based on what? They judged what the believers did, but they didn't look inside. Why did the believers do it? The believers did it and they changed the direction of their qibla immediately because of their absolute obedience to Allah Azza wa Jal. They don't want to ask any more questions. Allah said, face Al-Kaaba instead of Jerusalem. I'm going to do it right now and I'm not going to ask any more questions. You know, one time Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was praying, and Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam came to him and told him that his shoes has some dirt on it. So what he did alayhi salatu wasalam, he took off his shoes while he was praying. The Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim behind him, they found Rasulullah took off his shoes. So what they did, they all of them took off their shoes. They didn't ask, why ya Rasulullah you did that? Why do we have to take off our shoes? Because at that time they didn't have carpets in the masajid. After the prayer, Nabi alayhi salatu turned his face to the Sahaba and he noticed that all of them have taken their shoes and their shoes are next to them. They're not wearing them. Nabi alayhi said, why did you take off your shoes? What made you do that? They said, Ya Rasulullah, رَأَيْنَاكَ خَلَعْتَ فَخَلَعْنَا. We're praying behind you, we saw you taking off your shoes, and we obey and follow you in whatever you do without even asking, and that's why we took off our shoes. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أتاني جبريل فأخبرني أن بهما قذرة أو نجسة. He said to them, the reason I took off my shoes is because angel Jibreel عليه السلام came to me and told me they have some dirt on them and I cannot continue my prayer with some dirt on my shoes. But they obeyed Rasulullah no matter what. So the first lesson that we have in the second juz of Al-Quran Al-Kareem, which is verse 142, Allah is talking about absolute submission to Allah without asking any questions, and He's talking about what matters more to Allah Azza wa Jal is not what people do. It's not the direction that we face. It's not how we look like, even though it's important. But what's more important in the sight of Allah Azza wa Jal is the purification of the inside, which is the absolute submission. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, what did he say? He said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَنظُرُ إِلَى صُوَرِكُمْ وَلَا إِلَى أَجْسَادِكُمْ. Allah doesn't actually look at your figures. Allah doesn't look at how you look like, even though it's important to look nice and clean and follow the sunnah of Rasulullah, even apparently. But that's not the main thing that Allah cares about. What does He care about, Ya Rasulullah? قال النبي ولكن ينظر إلى قلوبكم وأعمالكم. But Allah Azza wa Jal cares much more about your hearts and your actions. May Allah Azza wa Jal rectify and purify our hearts and our actions. Allahumma ameen Ya Rabbil Alameen. So that is the first lesson. The second lesson is in the second ayah in this juz. The second ayah in this juz is ayah 143, which is about the best nation that Allah Azza wa Jalla has created for the world. He said, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. The question is, why do we Muslims believe that our nation is the best nation? Why? Why? It's not because of our lineage. It's because of some certain conditions Allah Azza wa Jalla has put in the Quran. If we fulfill these conditions, if anybody fulfills these conditions, he's going to be deserving the title Ummatan wasata, moderate nation, the best nation in the sight of Allah. What are these conditions? قال كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس. One, the first condition, تأمرون بالمعروف, you do da'wah. You order what's good. You command people to do what's good. You invite them to do what's good. وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ, and to try to stop what's evil and forbid what's evil. وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ, and you have purification of the heart. You believe in Allah Azza wa Jal. If anybody fulfills these three conditions, he deserves to be from the destination. In this ayah, Allah talked about another word when He talked about the destination. He said, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. In the second juz, wasata means middle nation. Middle nation, if you translate it literally, you might understand that middle nation is between what's good and what's bad. It's just in the middle. and that's very wrong. Middle nation means, you know the mountain? The middle of the mountain is the top. So when Allah says about the Muslims, they are ummatan wasata, they are middle nation, moderate nation, this means they are the top, like the mountain. They are in the top of other nations with their actions, not because of their lineage. So we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us the most deserving people of this title. Allahumma ameen. The third lesson, the third main lesson that you will find in the second juz of Al-Quran. And actually this lesson was one of the main reasons why some people came to Islam. We have some reverts in our community and have talked to enough of them, and some of them told me that these particular ayat were the main reason they came to Islam. Some of them used to have a lot of hardships in their lives, a lot of hardships. And we all go through hardships sometimes. But they didn't find refuge in anything until they opened the Mus'haf, and they found these ayat from 153 to 157. And this ayat speak about the importance of patience, steadfastness, and perseverance. Allah Azza wa Jalla said in ayah 153, يا أيها الذين آمنوا استعينوا بالصبر والصلاة. O believers, seek refuge, seek comfort in two things, patience and prayers. And Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned patience first before prayers. Why? Because I cannot perform prayers in a way that pleases Allah Azza wa Jalla unless I have patience. I cannot even fast unless I have patience. Today I was reflecting on this beautiful hadith when Rasulullah said what? الصوم نصف الصبر. Today, because I had a Jum'ah khutbah today, so I had to give a khutbah, and when I give a khutbah during my fasting, I get headache because my throat becomes very dry. So I was very tired, I didn't eat anything, and I had to give khutbah, so I felt very tired. And then I was reflecting on the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, الصوم نصف الصبر. Fasting is half of patience. So all these difficulties that we're going through in fasting, it's actually only half of patience. So what about patience? Patience is the main key of success. The main key of success is patience. We're going to be talking about this inshallah very soon right now. So Allah Azza wa Jalla said, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الصَّابِرِينَ. And then he also talked about patience and says, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. We will certainly test you with a touch of fear. A touch of fear. شَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ. He did not say, we will scare you. This pandemic that's going on nowadays, it's not anything scary with the measurement of Allah Azza wa Jal. It's just a touch of fear. If Allah wants to frighten the human beings, He wouldn't leave anybody on earth. He wouldn't leave anybody on earth. That's not true fear. We're sitting at home and we're safe. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. May Allah Azza wa Jal continue to make us all safe and healthy. Allahumma ameen. Allah said, شَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ. Just a touch of fear. شَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ. We will test you with a touch of fear and famine and loss of property, life, and crops. And then he said, give glad news to the patient, people who have steadfastness and perseverance. And then Allah as well told us about the proper reaction when there is any difficulty going on in our life. He said, الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. He said the main thing that I need to say when I'm going through any difficulty, إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. Somebody passed away. Somebody lost his job. Somebody has become homeless. Somebody is sick. Somebody is having any problems with his community members, with his family members, with his schools. The main reaction is إِنَّا لِلَّهِ. Indeed, we belong to Allah Azza wa Jal. وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. And indeed, to Allah will return. We are His creation, and He created this world. It's His universe, and He decides whatever He wants. Whatever He wants, and we only need to be okay with whatever He decides. He said the outcome of this, أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون. Those people who have patience, they say إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون, they will have blessings and mercy, and they will be the most guided people by Allah Azza wa Jal. May Allah make us amongst them. Say Ameen. Allahumma Ameen. The next lesson, number 4, is very interesting. We're in Ramadan now, and this is actually the only place in the Quran in which Allah Azza wa Jal speaks about fasting. Okay, if you open the entire Quran, and please listen carefully because I'm gonna tell you very interesting fact about the connection between Siyam and Dua mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah in the second juz. Very interesting. MashaAllah. The only place, if you read the whole entire Quran from the beginning to the end, you will not find anywhere Allah talking about Siyam, fasting, and Ramadan, except in these ayat. Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, Juz 2, verses 183 to 187. How many ayat? 183 to 187. How many ayat are these? 183, 184, 185, 186, 187. 5 ayat. So Allah, when He talked about fasting in Surah Al-Baqarah, He talked about them in 5 ayat. طيب. How many prayers we have every day? Obligatory prayers. 5 prayers. Subh or Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha. طيب. In which prayer Rasulullah said, if you do dua when you're fasting, at the time of that prayer, your dua is going to be accepted? Salatul Maghrib. Because he said, when you break your fast, you have a dua that's never rejected by Allah Azza wa Jal. And Salatul Maghrib is prayer number what in the 5 daily prayers? Number 4. If you look at the ayat of fasting, Allah talked about fasting in the first 3 ayat and the 5th ayah. And the 4th ayah is talking about dua. The 4th ayah, you know what it is? وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. When my servants, Ya Muhammad, ask you about me, tell them that I'm near to them and I respond to their du'as when they make du'as to me, Azza wa Jal. It's as if Allah Azza wa Jal is saying, look at the connection between fasting and Siyam. The 5 ayat of Siyam, the 4th of them, which is 186, speaks about dua in the middle of that of Siyam. And also, if you make dua at time of Maghrib, when you break your fast, your dua is accepted, as Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in an authentic hadith. طيب. Point number 5. Allah Azza wa Jalla talked about Hajj from ayat 189 to 203 in Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, 189 to 203. Allah Azza wa Jalla was talking about Hajj. He talked about Hajj in some other places in the Quran, but from a practical perspective, what to do during Hajj. But in Surah Al-Baqarah, in this ayat, Allah talked about Hajj from a spiritual perspective, how to connect the actions of Hajj to taqwa of Allah Azza wa Jalla. The one lesson that I'm going to get from the ayat of Hajj is ayah 200 and 201. 200, 201. What did Allah talk about in these 2 important ayat? He talked about balancing deen and dunya. Balancing deen and dunya. One time, Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, he came into the masjid and he found a person sitting down with a group of his friends, and they were worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal, reciting Quran, praying in jama'ah together, making a lot of adhkar, making i'tikaf the whole time. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu asked them, who are you? They said, نحن قوم متنسكون. Meaning we do manasik, ya Imam al-Mu'mineen. Manasik means rituals. So we're trying to do some rituals to get ourselves closer to Allah Azza wa Jal. And Sayyidina Umar asked one of them, who provides for you? Man yut'imuk? Who feeds you? If you're sitting in the masjid the whole day like this and you're so religious, who actually provides for you? فقال, he said, my brother. I worship Allah and he goes to work and comes to feed me. فقال سيدنا عمر, Sayyidina Umar said to him, your brother is خير منك. Your brother is better than you. Your brother is better than you. So a religious person is not someone who cares so much about rituals and he ignores his life. That's wrong. Allah Azza wa Jalla talks in Surah Al-Baqarah in ayah number 200, 201 about balancing deen and dunya. That's what the believers should be doing. A believer is not someone who looks a certain way and speaks a certain way. When he speaks, he always says, Jazakallahu khairan, barakallahu feek, alhamdulillah, Allahumma barik. These words that sound very religious, or they look a certain way, they dress a certain way, but when you look at, for example, unfortunately, may Allah just protect all of us, you look at their work, there's a failure there. If you look at their school, failure. If you look at their social aspect, it's failure. Physical aspect, physical well-being, just failure. The only thing they care about is how they look like, and they think that is religious. No, that's not religious. That is not the religion of Allah Azza wa Jal at all. Read ayah number 200 with me in Surah Al-Baqarah. What did Allah teach us in the second juz? He said, فَمِنَ النَّاسِ من يقول ربنا آتنا في الدنيا وما له في الآخرة من خلاق. Some people, they care only about dunya, and we say, Ya Rabbi, give us the good of this world, and they are heedless of the akhirah, they don't have any share of the akhirah. وما لهم في الآخرة من خلاق. Allah doesn't like that. He criticized them in ayah number 200. In the next ayah 201, what did he say? ومنهم من يقول ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Look at those people, they have balance. They said, Ya Rab, give us hasana, the good of this world, fi dunya hasana, the good of this world, and the good of the akhirah. They take care of their physical well-being, mental well-being, financial well-being, and spiritual well-being. We have to have the balance of all these together to be true believers. That's what Allah is telling us. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us amongst those people who take care of their all different dimensions of our life. Allahumma ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma ameen. It's not easy actually to have this balance, because you know what? It feels good when you just sit at the masjid and you're very relaxed and you do all of dua and people give sadaqat or to help you financially. That's relaxing, but that's not what Allah wants from us, because it's relaxing. I need to get up and do some work to be a true believer. طيب. Point number 6 that I have today is very interesting as well. The other topics that Allah talked about in the second juz, He talked about what? Marriage, how to get married, and the different kinds of iddah. And He talked about divorce, and why, and when, and how to get divorced. And He talked about what happens after the divorce, and before divorce, and the period of engagement, which is before marriage. Allah talked about all this in the second juz. What is He trying to tell us? He's trying to tell us that Islam doesn't only cover rituals, doesn't only cover prayers and fasting and reading Quran and du'as, which all of these are very important, but that's not the only thing that Islam cares about. Islam cares about all the different aspects of our life. He talked about everything. You want to go to work? Allah has some rulings regarding our work. I want to go study something. Allah has some guidance regarding what I'm going to study. I'm going to marry a certain person. Allah has some guidance regarding this. I'm going to live in a certain area. I'm going to travel to a certain country. Allah has some guidance in this regard. For everything, there's guidance. And let me tell you something very interesting. Some of the Hanafi schools of fiqh, scholars of fiqh, some Hanafi jurists, they said the books of fiqh are of 3 categories. Listen to this, it's very interesting, and tell it to your kids as well. They said fiqh is divided into 3 main categories. The first category is fiqh al-ibadat, the law of worship, prayers, fasting, going for hajj, paying zakah. And he said, the Hanafi scholars say, and this section of fiqh is very easy for the teachers and the students of knowledge. Why? Because both of them pray and they fast and pay zakah and they go for hajj, so it's easy, they can relate to it, so it's easy. But the second chapter of fiqh is called fiqh al-usra, the family law in Islamic jurisprudence, family law. And they said, for this section, the teachers understand it because they're married, they can relate. But the students of knowledge, they don't understand it because they're not married yet, so they cannot relate. That's the second category of fiqh. Like, the third category of fiqh is very interesting, which is what? The Islamic economy, the commercial law. And they say this commercial law is so difficult and complicated that neither teachers nor the students understand it. It's very difficult. So and yet you see some people nowadays, they go to Google to ask Google about some Islamic finance questions. That's, you know what, people who have their research or their degrees in Islamic finance and Islamic economy, they're very rare. We don't have a lot of them. I remember at the Azhar Sharif in my faculty when I studied, teachers of hadith, we had a lot of them. Teachers of fiqh, we had a lot of them. Teachers of seerah, teachers of usul al-fiqh, foundations of fiqh. But teachers of Islamic economy, only one person whose name is Dr. Samir Radwan. One person who teaches Islamic economy in the whole faculty, for the Islamic Studies department in English. Just one. So it's difficult. So the point I'm trying to make, Islam covers all aspects of our life. The next point that I have here, number 7, Allah Azza wa Jalla, when He talked about the story of Jalut. If you go to ayah number 249, Allah was talking about Saul's victory. He taught us very important lesson. The important lesson in second use is this. Number 8. He said, the lesson is victory is not based on our material power. Victory is not based on our physical power. It's not based on how many or how strong physically we are, which is extremely important. We always say, please take the means, tie your camel, and then rely on Allah Azza wa Jal. That's what Islam teaches. But at the end of the day, it does not matter how strong a country is or a person is. Victory only comes from Allah Azza wa Jal, even if you are mentally weaker, physically weaker, and you are fewer in number. Victory comes from Allah Azza wa Jal. قال الله عز وجل in this verse 249, قال الذين يظنون أنهم ملاقو الله كم من فئة قليلة غلبت فئة كثيرة بإذن الله والله مع الصابرين. He said the believers who were certain they would meet God, they said, how many times has a small force vanquished a mighty army by the will of God? And Allah is always with the steadfast. The main keys of success, the main keys of victory, and take this secret. It's a very important secret. And when I say secret, I don't mean that people don't know it. No, people know it, but not everybody implements or works on this secret. What is the secret of victory? What is the secret of victory in this world and success in this world and the akhirah? According to the Quran, what is the secret? According to this ayah and too many other ayat, like last ayah in Surah Al-Imran, for example. Al-Imran chapter 3, last ayah. And this ayah, Surah Al-Baqarah 249. What is the secret of success? The secret is patience, steadfastness, and perseverance. To do it no matter what. Do your work no matter what. Do your ibadat no matter what. Do your lessons no matter what. Be kind to people no matter what. You're gonna achieve success and victory at the end, regardless of the situation around you. Life is not easy, actually. It's not an easy game. It's difficult. And that's why we have to prove ourselves to Allah Azza wa Jal. Number 9, which is the last lesson that I'm going to say inshallah ta'ala today. Allah, if you go to verse 251, verse 251, which is the last verse that I'm going to mention today. What did Allah Azza wa Jal teach us in this verse? That's the last verse that I'm going to share with you. Last lesson in the second juz of Al-Quran Al-Kareem. This verse 251 is commanding every righteous person, every true believer, to stand against evil powers and try to stop them from their evil and corruption. That's the way Allah Azza wa Jal designed the world. Look, Allah Azza wa Jal, He can destroy evil people directly without creating some other forces to stand against them. He can do that. Nobody can stop Him if He wants. But why didn't Allah destroy evil people, for example? Why doesn't He destroy tyrants? And I'm not going to mention any name. I know there's a lot of thoughts are going into too many of you in your heads. And do you think I'm talking about some people in particular? No, I'm not. I'm just talking in general. Why do Allah Azza wa Jal give time to the tyrants and evil people and evil countries to destroy their people and the world? Why? People, employers, for example, are evil. People are even tyrants in their houses, for example, against their spouses. Why does Allah give those people time? Because the sunnah of Allah in this world, the way Allah designed this world, the way this world operates is that Allah creates some other people who are more righteous and they are true believers to stand against those evil forces. So it's like a test for us as believers. If we are true believers, it's a test for us. Are you gonna stand up for the truth or not? Are you gonna stand up for the truth or not? Where did Allah mention that? As I said, in verse 251, قال الله ولولا دفع الله الناس بعضهم ببعض لفسدت الأرض ولكن الله ذو فضل على العالمين. Had God not repelled a group of people by the mighty of another, corruption would have dominated the earth. But Allah is gracious to all, Azza wa Jal. So it's His way that He designed the world this way for us to stand against evil people and evil power as much as we can. As much as we can. If you can change what's evil with your hand, do it. But if you don't have the power to change it with your hand, speak about it. If you cannot even speak about it because you're scared or you're gonna harm yourself or your life or your family, at least hate the evil with your heart, as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned. These are the main lessons that we have in the second juz of Al-Quran Al-Kareem. I would encourage you, inshallah ta'ala, now to go for Salatul Isha after a little bit and then pray Taraweeh with your family. If you want to read the whole juz and you're not a hafiz or you cannot read Arabic, you can open your app on phone, read from it while you're praying, and flip the pages after each rak'ah, as I explained today in my Jum'ah talk. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.